Alright, it seems like we are now live. So, let's just go ahead and let's go straight into it, shall we? You all came here to figure out what's going to happen to Yoimiya post 2.4. So, I'm going to go ahead and respond that and give you a response to that right now. In 2.4, we will be introduced to a new character that goes by the name of Yunjin. She will be in the Shenhe banner as well as the Xiao banner, and she will be an option that you can pick up for free due to one of the 2.4 events. The reason why I want to focus on Yunjin is because her kit design is probably one of the most powerful kit designs that has been introduced in quite a while. Due to the way that Yunjin works, she will forever change the way that we look at certain characters. And with the title of the video, I don't want to wait too much around. The character that will become one of the strongest characters in game is going to be Yoimiya. Yunjin, the way that she works, at least the way that she's expected to work, she's going to be bringing a attack buff to normal attacks with her scaling in mind. This infusion of attack essentially works the same way as one would look at Kokomi's burst or Zhongli's passive. It adds the attack as scaling. This means that extra attack power is getting benefits not only from the crit rate of the character, the crit damage, fire attack buffs, any infusions that you can put into it, any normal attack damage bonuses that you can get to the attack. Everything the character can boost towards their normal attacks will also be boosted by what Yunjin brings. For a lot of characters, this doesn't actually mean that much. But for the characters that we're going to be talking about, this is probably one of the most massive buffs that you can imagine, rivaling or even doubling Bennett's buff in quite a lot of scenarios. Yunjin will be incredibly good with a lot of characters. So, let's just go ahead and let's go into the first one. The one that I want to talk about the most is going to be Yoimiya. Yoimiya is probably going to be the character that's going to be benefiting the most from Yunjin. She is incredibly powerful already. If you have seen my free-to-play tier list, I already consider Yoimiya to be one of the better characters that a free-to-play person can get. She has a lot of benefits that make her incredibly easy to build, with a lot of modifiers that can be stacked upon her. This is why Yoimiya will break the game once 2.4 is out. The amount of modifiers that Yoimiya can stack for normal attacks in particular is insanely high. She has access to weapons like Rust, which already give 80%. One of her passives gives her 20% pyro damage bonus after attacking for a few minutes, or for a few seconds. In addition to that, she can also use the Shimenawa set to increase that by even further, and because her attack is an infusion that also gives her normal attacks pyro, she can benefit from things like pyro damage bonuses. All around, Yoimiya can easily get 194% extra damage towards her normal attacks. On top of that, she can also get crit really easy, being a 5-star character that has crit rate as their main stat that they get from level up. She, at max rank, gets 24% crit rate for free, meaning that stacking crit damage on Yoimiya is actually really easy, even with the Rust being equipped as her main weapon. Not only that, but as a free-to-play character, she has a lot of access to powerful abilities and powerful things that will benefit her massively. The ones to note are the Rust, which I've already mentioned, as well as a craftable weapon in the Hanayumi's bow. On top of that, her elemental skill, Newabi Fire Dance. I have already been quoted as saying that her skill is probably the best that we have in-game. Now that Yunjin is out and about, or that she will be in a couple hours, this is 100% going to be a fact that nobody will be able to change. Before, it had a contention with Hu Tao. Now, there is no contention. Newabi Fire Dance is the best skill in the game. What this ability does, for people that are not familiar with Yoimiya, because she does have a couple intricacies that are fairly difficult to tell immediately. The way the Newabi Fire Dance works, it increases the normal attack damage by 160% at max rank. Normally, you would read this and you would think that you're adding 160% damage bonus towards normal attacks. That's not the case here. What Newabi Fire Dance does is it multiplies the damage. It essentially works the same way as Vaporize. And if you know how powerful Vaporize is on characters that are already out here, like Hu Tao, you know how powerful this is going to be. Not only that, because Yoimiya herself is also a pyro character, she can also apply Vaporize to her attacks. Now, in the past, Yoimiya's Vaporize damage has not been super high because she can only trigger Vaporize twice every 3 seconds, which is not ideal when you compare it to characters like Hu Tao, who can trigger it on every single one of her attacks. However, with Yoimiya, that is still going to be a massive bonus because of Newabi Fire Dance. You're going to be multiplying the damage by 2.6, and then you're going to be multiplying it by Vaporize again and again and again. With Yunjin into the mix, another round of Yoimiya isn't good, her supports are. That's something that's likely going to end up happening in the future, just because of how much damage Yunjin in particular is bringing to a table. But no, this is not Yunjin. This is 100% Yoimiya. Yoimiya is the character that's making this possible. She is a pyro character that has the strongest stimulant in the entire game, and she's also able to infuse it into her attacks. Because she's also a bow user, she's able to get some of the strongest buffs to normal attack damage. If Yoimiya doesn't exist, Yunjin is not that good. This is not a case where the support is the one being the good one. This is a case of Yoimiya being the broken one that only needed that extra amount of damage to actually expatiate it. Now that Yunjin is here to provide that extra scaling, Yoimiya is just going to be insane. Yoimiya is going to be absolutely busted. We already know how powerful things like Crimson Pike can be early on for a lot of different characters and just to play around with the game. And Yoimiya's normal attack chain fits quite well into a Crescent Pike attack chain, something that you would want. Yoimiya can attack about 7 times within a 3-second time period. That's just the way that her basic attack chain works. So because of this, you can actually go higher if you do proper cancellations. I don't know the proper cancellations for Yoimiya though. I do know that she can get really high attack chains really quickly, which is where a character like Yunjin will actually benefit a lot from this. As I mentioned, Yunjin works the same way as Kokomi. Whenever she activates her burst, the active character will gain a buff that will increase the scaling of the ability that's being used. If we take into account the duration of this ability and the duration Newabi Fire Dance has, as well as all the other factors, they pretty much almost synergized perfectly. Newabi Fire Dance lasts for 10 seconds, the skill from Yunjin lasts for 12. Yunjin does have a stack maximum, but that stack maximum was 30. So even at maximum efficiency, Yoimiya will not be able to get to that amount, which makes her, honestly, able to do the entire trigger of Yunjin better than most other characters. Yoimiya is going to be insane. She is absolutely going to be insane. Just from normal statistics, mediocre artifacts, mediocre everything, just like base stat that you can imagine for like probably a week of farming. You're looking at damage that is similar to what a Hu Tao equipped with the Staff of Homa can provide. Assuming you have Vaporize. That's how powerful it is. Assuming the perfect scenario for Hu Tao, you're already at a point with Yoimiya, without even factoring anything else other than Yunjin and just mediocre everything, to where you're doing that amount of damage. It's honestly insane. As I mentioned before, this mainly has to do with the fact that you're adding extra scaling to Yoimiya's abilities, and just think about the damage that Yoimiya is already doing. Yunjin is effectively doubling that, meaning that you get even more benefit from everything that you bring along the table. Right now, one of the reasons why Vaporize is not seen as that big of an increase for Yoimiya is because of the fact that she only triggers it a couple times. Because of the lower value that Vaporize has on Yoimiya, oftentimes a well-placed overloaded character a well-placed Overload character like Fischl would be able to bring more. That's no longer going to be the case. Even if Yoimiya is not vaporizing all of her attacks, the 2 attacks that she is vaporizing are probably going to be so high in damage that it's going to be worth doing that again. It's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be seeing. I fully expect that Yoimiya, once 2.4 comes out, she's going to be able to equip. She's going to be able to use characters like She's going to be able to use characters like Bennett, Yunjin, and Xingqiu to such a high degree that she's pretty much going to be killing everything in sight. The damage numbers are just absolutely insane. It's ridiculous. Whatever damage you're seeing right now with Yoimiya, you're gonna double that. And then if you're vaporizing with that, you're pretty much gonna quadruple it. It's something that I didn't expect to see for a very long time. I don't even know if it's something that they're gonna be addressing in the future. At least as it stands right now, we're a couple hours from the release of 2.4. And based on the data that we have, based on the data that miHoYo has given us, based on the data that other people have given us, this appears to be something that will happen, which is very exciting for free-to-play players, and also a bit worrisome for others, because it does kind of show that power creep is starting to happen, and well, that's something that we should probably discuss at another time. But for now, Yoimiya, she's looking very, very strong. Her ult sucks, her auto target setting can be interrupted, yes, blah blah, Yunjin helps, but that means you miss out on a Nemo unit, which can increase DPS just as much. Alright. I know that Yoimiya does have a lot of problems. Let me just go ahead and let's bring her into here. Just give me 1 sec. And I will go ahead and I'll show why a lot of those problems are not really going to matter that much. The main reason with Yoimiya and the reason why a lot of those problems are oftentimes seen as problems is because her damage does not exponentiate that well. The biggest factor in why a character is good in Genshin is how much DPS can they put in a short period of time. The reason why Hu Tao is really good is because a lot of her DPS is very centered. A lot of it has targeting priority. You can secure a lot of that DPS really, really easily. Let's go ahead, Genshin. Let's go ahead and take a look at Yoimiya. The way that Yoimiya does damage, she does not have one attack that does a lot of damage. She has multiple attacks that stack up in damage over time. While her tracking is not the greatest, let's be real, you will miss at least 1 or 2 attacks. The fact that she can still bring out all the other attacks into this mix will more than make up for it. If we look at the way that Yoimiya works, she is hitting 7 times within 3 seconds. Just missing 2 of those attacks won't really change the damage numbers by a significant margin. Because the damage numbers are so high up now that Yunjin is in the table, losing even just 20% of that damage is not going to be significant. The damage numbers that we're talking about are somewhere around like 500,000 damage within a single casting of Newabi Fire Dance. Losing 100k of that still leaves you with 400,000 damage within a single casting of an ability. This is average damage, by the way. This is not true damage. If I were to say true damage, that would probably be significantly higher. The damage that Yoimiya is bringing is honestly very close to whale levels. If we take a look at this normal attack right here, essentially what Yunjin does, for every single scaling that you see here, Yunjin is adding 60% to that. 60% of her defense, which can scale much, much higher than what you normally would with attack. Essentially, I already did the math for this, at maximum efficiency, Yunjin is adding 70% attack scaling towards Yoimiya's kit for every single one of the attacks. That is how powerful this buff is. 70% scaling. This is... We already saw what 80% scaling did to Albedo's skill. Yunjin is providing 70% of that to every single normal attack that Yoimiya has. And as I've already explained, Yoimiya has an insane amount of modifiers towards her normal attacks. Rust, Shimenawa's Reminiscent, her passive, Pyro Attack infusions. Anything that you can think of that can increase Yoimiya's normal attacks. You can stack a lot. A lot. At that point, you're more than likely going to be using Shimenawa's Reminiscence now. The burst not doing that much damage is no longer something that you care about. Because the damage that you are getting from the normal attacks is so much higher, then you just don't care. This is the same thing that happens with Hu Tao, oftentimes. A lot of people, despite Hu Tao's burst being one of the best bursts that we have in game, a lot of people just don't use it, because they don't have to. They can just normal attack, they can just burst attack, charge attack their enemies to death without even touching the burst. More oftentimes, the burst is kind of just done as a little bit of extra damage when you have your Hu Tao at that point. The same thing is going to happen now with Yoimiya, but in an affordable rate. So her burst not having interactions no longer matters because you're never going to be casting it anymore. You're more than likely going to be using Shimenawa's all the time, and the times when you are going to be casting it, it's just going to be extra damage. A majority of her damage is now centered exclusively on Newabi Fire Dance. Newabi Fire Dance is what's going to make what's going to make Yoimiya so good. Again, as you mentioned, there are a lot of caveats. You're probably going to be needing a lot of energy recharge on your Yunjin, which is not that big of a deal. It's actually fairly easy to get the amount that Yunjin is going to need because she generates a lot of energy and she synergizes really well with a lot of the energy recharge weapons we have, like Favonius. The Favonius Lance is probably going to be one of her best in slots, so I don't expect that to be that big of an issue. I just don't see how this is not going to change the way that a lot of people are gonna play Genshin. I think for free-to-play players, Yoimiya is going to be the best character. You would need to miss literally half of every single shot that you fire in order to not have that much power in Yoimiya. I think her single target DPS is gonna be so insanely high as well that her lack of AoE is just not gonna matter. It's just so much power. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So just give me one sec. I had to hide chat for pulling out Genshin, so just give me one sec. ICD doesn't matter. ICD absolutely does not matter. Vaporize is something that you're thinking about old Yoimiya. ICD was a problem with Yoimiya before because her 4th or 5th attacks were the ones that you wanted to vaporize in order to get that massive amount of damage. You have to consider, with Yunjin, every single one of her attacks has the same scaling as the 3rd or 5th shot. So when you have Yunjin active, every single one of your attacks is the 3rd or 5th shot. So it doesn't matter which one you're vaporizing. You're getting a massive amount of damage. ICD just doesn't matter for her anymore. Any single attack that you vaporize is going to be high value. So it just doesn't matter. And even with that, her ICD is not that high. It's like 1.5 seconds. So within the duration that you're going to be going for, more than likely, assuming that you have Xingqiu, you're going to be still getting like, what, 6, 7 vaporizes that are high value. Even taking that into account, just those vaporizes will likely multiply your damage to a significant degree. Assuming that you have your Yoimiya built properly, every single one of those vaporizes is likely going to end up adding somewhere between 12,000 to 15,000 DPS. And that amount of DPS is already considerably high. Realistically, it's going to be slightly less because of cooldown timers and all that. About 8,000 is probably what you would be real DPS once you take into account downtime, but that's still incredibly high. So much to the point where it just doesn't matter anymore. Before, with old Yoimiya, you were pretty much looking at half of that, if even. You were probably adding like 3000 DPS, true DPS, which wasn't that heavy. That's one of the reasons why it wasn't seen as a good option. That's why you went with things like Overloaded, for example, because Overloaded damage ended up being, what was it, like something around 5000 DPS, so it ended up being more. Now that Yunjin is added into the mix, it just doesn't matter that her ICD is not ideal, because every single one of the hits is going to be high value, and every single one of the hits is going to be doing a significant amount of damage. At the end of the day, you're looking to maximize DPS. If you can one-shot the enemy before the downtime has any effect, then her true DPS is it's like over 40,000, which is absurd just for Yoimiya. If you take it into account with downtime, it's still like 22,000, which is for Hu Tao to do 22,000 true DPS with downtimes already taken into account. You need to be hitting, like, every single one of your charge attacks have to do like 60k damage. That's the kind of attack that we're looking at here, and Yoimiya will likely be hitting for those numbers. Within the same amount of time that you're doing 2 charge attacks for Hu Tao, Yoimiya will likely be doing well over 100k damage with her 7 shots. This is one of the reasons why Vaporize, it doesn't really matter that it's not that high value. It's not maximum value, my bad, because the value is still going to be high, regardless of what you do. The only thing that'll probably cause Yoimiya problems, like real problems, are going to be the rock shields that some healer tropes have. Because even with her normal attacks not having true ICD, like, they don't trigger Pyro every single attack, they triggered it every couple. Her regular ICD is still really fast. I think it's like 1.37, something like that. It's very, very fast. You're gonna get a lot of procs, whether it be Vaporize or whatever you're doing. It's gonna be high value for sure. I fully expect the best team is probably gonna be Bennett, Yunjin, Shengqiu, and then Yoimiya. But there's a lot of variations. You're not gonna be reliant on that. You can safely take out Bennett and the damage will still be there. The only character that you truly need is probably going to be Yunjin. Everything else, it can be whatever you want, and you'll likely still see similar results. Shengqiu is probably still the best because of what I mentioned before, even though she's not triggering that many Vaporizes, because the ones that she is triggering are strong enough to the point where you will be getting a lot of it. It just don't matter. It just doesn't matter. And then on the Anemo front, you can probably use an Anemo character instead of others. It's something that you can do. At the end of the day, it's going to be reliant on what you want. I can totally see just forgoing Vaporize entirely and then going for someone like probably not Venti, like the Kazuha. Going for Kazuha, Bennett, Yunjin, and then Yoimiya herself. The insane part about Yoimiya is that she doesn't rely on Vaporize. She can just do her damage, and it just doesn't matter. You can just go pure Pyro with Anemo, and you'll still see about the exact same amount of damage that you're seeing if you were to go with Vaporize. Which is not something that you can say for a lot of characters. I think the only one that can kinda work like that, maybe Klee, but that's like a super whale build. You would probably need the defense reduction for that one. Hotel Thoma BB comp gave her a massive with the grouping. Yunjin is definitely a buff to Yoimiya, I just don't know if it'll put her in line with Xiangling or Hidel. You're not really sacrificing that much. The good thing about Yoimiya is that she can use Bennett. So you can use Bennett and Yunjin, and then you can go with whatever else you want. You can use her with Shengqiu, and then you're gonna end up with a very similar composition to the one that you see Hu Tao using It's just that instead of using a character like Albedo, you're now using a character like Bennett just to increase the damage even further. They're basically accomplishing the same thing in both regards. They're both just buffing the characters. I just, when it comes to the raw numbers, Yoimiya is now on par with Hu Tao with a Staff of Homa. This is not something that I say lightly, because Yoimiya is doing this entirely with 4-star characters. And you can do it with multiple characters in multiple ways. You can do it through a Nemo, you can do it through Vaporize, you can even do it through triple reactions if that's something that you would like. You can do double Geo, you can do whatever you want, and Yoimiya will likely do incredibly well. Because the only 2 characters that you need are Yunjin and Yoimiya. Everything else that you choose is going to be entirely up to you. These 2 groupings are already so powerful that everything else is just going to be an extra. This is a 2-man team. If you need a healer, there is a wide array of healers that you can choose from that will be effective. If you need defense, there is a wide array of shielders that work well with Yoimiya. I think Yoimiya is probably going to be the most flexible character as soon as you get Yunjin. These 2 characters, their combos are insane. And the fact that Yunjin can sustain herself, because she doesn't really need any sort of ridiculous stats, you can just go 3 defense artifacts and then everything else into energy recharge, and you can have a very, very powerful character. They're going to be incredibly strong. There is so much room for experimentation. There is so much room for optimizing. There is so much base damage just from these 2 alone. In my opinion, she is now the #1 free-to-play character. If I'm doing my free-to-play tier list right now, I'm honestly considering putting Yoimiya plus Yunjin as S++. The only character that I would probably consider putting into that position. She's that strong right now. She is going to be that strong. You're going to see a lot of ridiculous things with Yoimiya in the future. That I can guarantee you. Bennett is the most wanted support in any composition. The fact that Hu Tao doesn't need him to get... Yep, that's pretty massive, and that's exactly the same thing that Yoimiya is doing here. She can just supplant Yunjin instead of Bennett in a team. In fact, just as a bit of a thought, Yunjin provides double the buff that Bennett does. That's how strong she is. I'm of course assuming if you play Bennett, not assuming like the ridiculous max rank whale version, which still, even that version is only, what would it be? Yunjin would be like 1.67 times stronger than that version of Bennett. She doesn't need Bennett. It's just something that you will probably want to consider. The only character that Yoimiya will need is Yunjin. She's just that strong. Yunjin is double the Bennett, basically. It's kind of like the same thing with Goro. You can use Goro in geo compositions, but most geo compositions don't need him. It's just something that you can add into it. That's what Bennett feels right now. And that's weird to say, because Bennett is oftentimes the core of a team. And this one, he's legitimately an add-on. That's not something that a lot of characters can accomplish. As you mentioned, Hu Tao is probably the only one that can do that. Hu Tao Xingqiu, that's like the traditional duo that you can think of. But now, it's Yoimiya Yunjin. It's definitely up there. Anything that you need from your other 2 characters, you can just put into it. Any generic character will do. Any character that benefits with Yoimiya will do. Things like Fischl will also be still incredibly powerful. As I mentioned, pretty much all the generic ones, they're for the Anemo, for everything. I already mentioned the one that I think is going to be the strongest. The one that we're probably going to be seeing the most is likely going to be that one. But you can just replace it with whatever you want. Whatever healer you want to use, it'll work with Yoimiya. Whatever attack buffer you want to use, it'll work with Yoimiya. if you want to run like double Electro Yunjin Yoimiya, you can do that, and it'll work incredibly well. I think that's probably one of the ones that I would want to have a lot of fun with. Like, I guess we don't have an Electro Healer. It'll still be entertaining to play. Well, we'll have to wait and see. There's just so much potential with Yoimiya in particular that I just don't see how she doesn't have value. She is so insanely strong. Yoimiya, Union, Thelma, and Kazuha is going to be the comp. Oh, that actually sounds really strong. That actually does sound really strong. I think that has a lot of potential, for sure. Another one that I can probably see would be like Junyin, Yoimiya, Thelma, Jean. I feel like that is something that can also be really good for a more defensive option. That is definitely something I can look into. Hu Tao gonna need Toma or the rank 5 Dragonbane. Yeah, that is true. Hu Tao without those weapons, it does suffer a lot. Yoimiya does not. Just a rank 1 Rust will do you really, really good. And even if you don't have access to Rust, Hanayumi is still there. And it'll operate almost as powerful. The fact that Yoimiya doesn't need any 5-star weapons really benefits her. The thing that's also really good though is that if you do have 5-star weapons, pretty much every single one of them is good on Yoimiya, except Elegy at the end. I think that's like the only one that I wouldn't put on Yoimiya. Everything else, you have the Polar Star, which is insane. You have her own Thundering Fury, which is insane. Thundering Pulse, I think that's the one actually. Skyward Harp, Rust, Hanayumi. There's just so many good options for Yoimiya. She's gonna be very strong. Very, very strong. There is an insane amount of potential when it comes to Yoimiya, because of the fact that she's Pyro, and because of the fact that she has Nawawi Fire Dance, and now that she has Yunjin into the mix, the only thing that she was missing was a way to really exponentiate her damage. This is how she does it. And it's gonna be strong. I'm honestly considering just not even bothering with any of the new character releases that are coming in 2.4. Just consider what I'm saying. I'm not considering unrolling for the characters in 2.4, and the characters in 2.4 are Shenhei, one of the strongest buffs to cryo teams that we have seen in a very, very long time. Xiao, which is a character that I personally wanted for the longest time. Zhongli, which is arguably one of the strongest supports in the game, when it comes to the defensive aspect at the very least. He's definitely the most flexible, I will give him that much. And then Ganyu, the person who's regarded as the top of DPS. And I'm not considering rolling on any of them, because I might want Yoimiya. That is how strong this combo is. It's definitely something to keep in mind. This is not the only combo that Union will enable though. There's still another one that I do want to take a look into. Just give me one sec. And that is going to be with one of the characters that I actually just mentioned, Zhongli. Because Yoimiya is not the only one that benefits from Union. Zhongli is also another character that we're going to be taking a look into, because he has a lot of things going for him, and a lot of things that are going to be very beneficial for him in particular with Union. When... Oh yeah, I might consider. I don't need Electro, but I might consider. We don't know anything about Yai just yet, so it's kind of hard to see where she's gonna be placing, and I'm not in such a position where I can start rolling for waifu just yet. But the other character that I do want to mention is Zhongli. Zhongli is another character that is going to be getting a massive buff from Union in particular, mainly the DPS variant of Zhongli. A lot of the people are using the support variant, which is really, really good because of his shield. The DPS variant is actually going to be getting a massive, massive buff with Union. In the same vein as to why Union is very strong on Yoimiya, Union is going to be very strong on Zhongli because of the same reason, but also an additional one. With Union and Zhongli, every normal attack that Zhongli does will have scaling from attack, defense, and HP. Every single normal attack that Zhongli has will gain scaling from every attribute in the game. If that by itself does not sound ridiculous, I don't know what will. Zhongli is going to be getting scaling from his attack, from his health, and from Yunyin's defense. On top of that, Zhongli also has a really fast attack chain. The same as Yoimiya, about 7 attacks per 3 seconds. His charge attack is also incredibly good, and his cancels are insanely powerful. On top of that, Zhongli is also a spear user, so if you remember the Crescent Pike, alongside his now more consistent energy generation post his buff, you will see where this is starting to go. Crescent Pike Zhongli was already one of the more free-to-play friendly options that you could get out there, because his shield plus the combination of the Crescent Pike gave him really good DPS while keeping him in a significantly tanky space. His DPS is not going to be as insane as someone like Yoimiya, but it is going to be really high. Right now, before Union, you can still get a very high amount of true DPS with Zhongli in the physical variant. It's not insane 3 million damage, but it is still very strong. It's to the point where you can clear most of the content in the game, excluding probably like the current event, in all honesty, because you can definitely 3-star Abyss with him. With a physical variant of Zhongli, that is. But now that Union isn't the case, he is going to be getting a pretty significant buff. When it comes to free-to-play options, Zhongli is becoming even stronger as not only a DPS, support, burst DPS. Every single facet of Zhongli is now viable to a degree that it's worth investing into. The Crescent Pike physical DPS Zhongli with Union is something that you're likely going to be seeing a lot, especially when people get Zhongli during the 2.4 event. And if you're just starting out Genshin, this is probably what I would recommend that you do. If you have anyone that's just starting out Genshin, what I would tell them to do is to reroll their account until they get Zhongli, and then try to get Union from the event. Because these two combined will give them in such a strong combo that they will be able to pretty much just evolve any team that they want around those two characters. Zhongli's defensive abilities plus the DPS increase that Union will provide will be more than enough to deal with most of anything in the game. Just from base stats alone, Zhongli equipped with the physical damage artifacts, you can probably use the retracting bolide set if you feel the less damage is not that big of a deal, and you're still going to be getting a significant amount of DPS, more than enough to clear Abyss, more than enough to do most of every event in Genshin. If my calculations were right, which I'm pretty sure they were, I did like 4 times, he is doing a Crescent Pike Zhongli combined with Union is doing about the exact same amount of damage that my Ayaka is when I pair her with my Benti. So this damage is not insignificant. It is very, very competitive, at least for free-to-play. If you're a whale, you can accomplish significantly more, but for free-to-play, this is going to be a very, very good option. Like, insanely good option. If you're a whale, though, you do have access to stronger abilities. You have access to stronger buffs, and you have access to just things that will exponentiate more. For free-to-plays, though, this is very up there. This is not something that you should skip on. Physical Zhongli is going to make a comeback, and that is going to be because of Union. Alright. I think if you already have Pyro DPS like Hu Tao Shengling, you're probably better off diversifying. That is probably the case, yeah. If you already have a really heavily invested character, Yoimiya might not be the best fit. Likely because a lot of the supports that you would use on Yoimiya are probably already being used in there. Then again, if we ever get an Electro Healer, I can definitely see like Yoimiya, Fischl, whatever the electro healer is, and Yunjin being a very strong combo that you can just do for overloaded and still get a significant amount of results. That would require us to get an electro healer, and we're not sure if we're going to get that for a long time. So I wouldn't bet too much on it. I do think that Yoimiya is probably going to be one of the best buffs for free-to-play players. Definitely one of the ones that you should definitely keep an eye out. But yeah, I can see your argument. If you already have a strong pyro unit, let's be real, all pyro DPS are the same. The only one that's going to be the exception is Yoimiya. Let's see. You have a question for Noelle comp. I'm running her with Albedo and Goro. For your last slot, is it more optimal to go for Zhongli or Yunjin? Yunjin buffs Noelle, Zhongli rests threats, and buffs Albedo. This is going to be a very tricky question, because in more cases, your better option is going to be Zhongli. In a lot of cases, you're actually not going to be using Goro as a support, because Goro does not actually benefit that much unless you have him at C6. The C6 is probably his point where I would see him as viable. Anywhere before that, you will likely get more supports from other sources. If it were up to me, with your particular combination that you have right now, I would probably not bother with Goro. I would probably get Zhongli, and then I would use Yunjin instead of Goro. It'll give you about the same without having to worry too much about the build. I think that's probably going to be your best case scenario, and it'll also give you a real battery for Noelle without having to worry too much about other factors. That's what I plan on doing, and that's probably what's going to be the best case scenario for you as well. Realistically, there's just a lot of different ways that you can go about it. One of the main things with Goro that oftentimes I don't see being mentioned that much is that yes, he can actually provide a fairly decent amount of DPS. His DPS can go up to very, very high values. I think it was like 10k DPS was like his maximum. 8k assuming the utility build, which is like where you're using what was it, the XL set? I think that's the one. Because he does have a lot of problems with energy generation. I just don't think he's that high value, if I'm being honest. Union, she's probably also not going to be that good into pure Geo compositions, if I'm being completely honest with you. A lot of Geo characters don't really benefit that much from Union other than Zhongli. Noelle does get a benefit, but her benefit mainly comes not from the extra scaling, but rather from the attack speed that she can make, as well as the constellations. If you don't plan on going high in constellations for Union, I would probably just replace her with another character altogether. Fischl will likely be the best option. If you're going for like a proper Geo team, like full Geo, my 4 characters would probably be Union, Albedo, Zhongli, and Noelle. That's like the ones that I would choose. If you don't want to go full Geo, I would probably go Noelle, Zhongli, Albedo, Fischl. That's the one that I would use. Fischl does a lot for Geo compositions, and she works incredibly well with pretty much all the characters presented. That is what I would aim for. Now it's kind of a meme comp, and the other DPS has gone up. Yeah. In 1.2, physical DPS Zhongli was actually incredibly competitive with a lot of the content in the game, because you would be able to clear it really, really easily without having to worry about pretty much anything, because Zhongli's shield was just that strong. And while that still remains the case, as soon as we got Ganyu, Hu Tao, Staff of Homa, and then all the insane weapons that came with Inazuma, the power level of the game just skyrocketed. It went insanely high. Really, really quickly. A lot of the enemies in the game were just not taking anything from physical Zhongli. I'm kind of glad that we're getting a bit of a resurgence for that one. There's still going to be a lot of caveats when it comes to it. You are going to have to keep on concentrating a lot on the energy generation, but it is definitely going to be a lot stronger. For physical Zhongli, funnily enough, I don't think you're actually going to be using superconduct anymore. I don't think that's going to be a necessity. You're probably better off just with Red Shred in particular for like geo characters and just buffing as much as possible. I'm fully expecting for people that are starting out in this particular patch, the best option you can probably have will be something like Zhongli, Yunjin as the character that you get for free, and then whatever healer you can accomplish, more than likely Parvra, and then whatever burst character you can get. Ideally, you would probably want... I'm gonna say Ning Wang. I think Ning Wang is the one that fits the most. But you can probably just use the Geo Traveler as well. That seems like a very reasonable team. Just going like maximum crit power Zhongli with a little bit of buffs from whether it be the physical artifacts or whether it be the Bolite set. The physical artifacts are probably going to be the better option now, if you're just starting out. Bolite, you're probably not getting a defense. And then just whatever generally good burst character you can accomplish. That is definitely something that I can see. Fischl Barbara, if you can get Fischl as a free to play from the shop or something, that could be pretty good. I don't know. Yunjin opens up such a high amount of possibilities for a lot of characters. I'm just happy that she is being put in such a position where she can make a change. Normal attacks have been really, really bad for a long time. And now that we have another way of boosting them to a point where they can actually be used reasonably, we're going to be seeing a lot of fun things in the future. At least, I hope. I think one of the things that I'm going to be looking forward to the most is going to be if we get a spear character that can multi-hit. That's also Hydro with an infusion. That's a lot of things to hope for. That is a lot of things to hope for. Oh god. We'll have to wait and see. Another character that does benefit a lot from Union is Child, but Child doesn't benefit them that much because his scaling is already pretty high. And while his attack speed is significant, it's not to the point where it's game-changing or anything like that, since more often than not you're spam canceling just to get a couple hits. You're not really going to be getting that much benefit from Union. This doesn't mean that there's no benefit. There is a pretty strong benefit for it, and a lot of main DPS Childs are going to be using Union. That much I can tell you, but there's probably better options. We'll just have to wait and see. Can you wish me luck on the Ganyu banner? For sure, man. You're not guaranteed, but you're gonna get a lot of luck for it. Even if you don't get Ganyu, though, you can still get a lot of really powerful cryo DPSs. I'm pretty sure that we're expected to see a rerun on Ayaka relatively soon, so that is something that you can also look into, because we now know that Ayato is going to be coming out pretty soon. We don't know exactly when. My bet would be 2.6. That's my bet. More than likely, they're going to be doing a rerun of Ayaka and Ayato together. That's what makes sense. That's what seems to be the plan to the future. We'll have to wait and see. Physical Rosaria, yeah, she's incredibly fun to play as well. Union will benefit Rosaria because at the end of the day, she is still a Crescent Pike user. She's someone that can use the Crescent Pike relatively effectively. She's not as powerful as characters like Zhongli and Shangling. She gets less attacks than those two, but she does get more buffs towards normal attacks than those two. If you have Constellations, Physical Rosaria is probably going to be a really good option. I would probably play her in a freeze composition, and then be like Physical Rosaria, Xingqiu, probably Albedo, then we need someone that can trigger Superconduct that has Burst. We don't want Raiden in this one because she'll break the freeze. We want Albedo to be the Shatter one. Who would be a good fit for the last one? We're kind of missing... Oh, I got it. What's her name? Tengu Lady. Sarah. Kujo Sarah. That's probably gonna be the team. Sarah has innate energy generation. Her attack buff, while not as strong as Bennett, is still very, very considerable. Her damage is a single burst of Electro, which is all we need in order to trigger Superconduct, and then we can just freeze the remaining of the enemies, take a lot of advantage from Shatter and Albedo, and still trigger the full passive, or not the full passive, the passive for Blizzard Strayer. We're not getting the full passive, but 35% is still pretty good. Or, well, I guess we only have one cryo, so it'll be 20%. Yeah, we're probably not going to even use Blizzard Strayer. We'll just go physical. We'll just go full physical. That does sound like a good idea. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say for 2.4 in particular. We are going to see some changes. That is for sure. I think Yoimiya is without a doubt going to be the best free-to-play character that one can get. Closely followed by Zhongli. All because of Union. I think Union will change a lot. And because we now have Union as a really good normal attack option, we are going to be allowed to look at different normal attack characters in a different light. We're still going to be looking for things that Crescent Pike users could want for Union, but if we can find another one that we can pretty much exponentially to the same degree that Yoimiya can, they're also going to be really, really good from now on. Normal attack characters are probably not going to be a meme anymore. The unfortunate part is that this is going to be driving the disparity between quick attacks and long, slow attacks even further. This is probably going to push Greatsword users down even more because they just don't have as many good buffs for them. So we'll just have to wait and see. Greatsword users are not in a good position now. This is pretty disappointing. Another character that I do want to take a look into when it comes to Union is going to be Physical Official. I will say this right now, I don't think it'll be good. But it'll be funny. And that's enough for me. If you decide to go for Yoimiya, will you still be going for Kokomi? I'm probably still going to be going for Kokomi because Kokomi is part of my freeze composition. So even if I do go for Yoimiya, I'm probably still going to be going for Kokomi. Now it's just a question of whether I go Shenhei or Yoimiya. And I think that question is not going to be decided by me. I'm going to be trying to roll for Shenhei. If I don't get Shenhei, I'm probably going to go for Yoimiya. And I'm going Kokomi regardless. That's the only 5-star that I know for a fact that I want to get. Everything else is up in the air. The only 2 characters that I think I need, because I don't need Yoimiya, I just kind of want her to showcase her power, and just to, because she is a free, well not free, but she's an incredibly easy character for me to build. I'm going to get a lot of benefit from her if I do go for her. I already have a rank 5 Rust. I'm definitely going to be getting Union from the free event. I have a lot of really powerful characters for her, and I have a lot of very strong Shiminawa pieces already. So I can definitely build her incredibly quickly, which is why I'm considering her. I don't think I need her per se. I already have a lot of really powerful teams. But if I do end up getting her, that would just solidify the teams that I can use. Right now, my team compositions, I'm mainly using the Tartaglia, Raiden, Bennett, Xiangling composition. That's like the one that I have most of my damage on. But I also have my Geo comp, which is the one that I'm actually using for Abyss right now, which is Noel, still at C6, or still not at C6. I'm at C5. I'm waiting for that last one. It will happen eventually. Albedo, Ningguang, and Fischl. That's my current team. I was thinking about going for Zhongli, because, as I mentioned, I think one of the best teams you can build when it comes to Geo is Fischl, Noel, Albedo, Zhongli. I think that is one of the best teams that you can just go for, period. But my Ningguang is at C6, and she's already so highly invested that even if I do change to Zhongli, the damage difference is going to be minimal. So I'm probably not going to bother anymore. The other team that I was building, and the reason why I want Kokomi, I want a freeze composition, a strong freeze composition that uses Ayaka, Kokomi, and what's his name, Venti, in order to maximize energy regen and maximize the damage of Ayaka. The reason why I want Shenhei is because she fits really well into that composition that I'm planning on building anyways. And if I do go for Yoimiya, she would be a really good fix for a lot of my problems when it comes to flying enemies and enemies that are difficult to deal with for Noel. So those are the characters that I'm considering and the reasons why I'm considering them. I don't think Shenhei is going to be a character that you should go for if you're free play. She requires way too much. The only reason why I'm even considering her is because I already have Ayaka and Venti. If those two were not the case, I wouldn't even look at her, despite how much I love the design. But yeah, for sure. I'm thinking that the most valuable character right now is probably Yoimiya. And it's not even close. It is not even close. But yeah, with that out of the way, I do think I am going to be ending this particular stream. I don't think I'm going to stop streaming though. I do kind of want to do a quick run of Abyss and just go directly into Q&A. But I don't want to do it within this stream. I'm going to be making a separate one. And yeah, I'll see all of you relatively soon. If you enjoyed, thank you very much for watching. Consider subscribing for more Genshin content in the future. Portals.